Thank you. Ruth, I have reviewed the exhibits that are here. I reviewed all of them, other than the report from Heartland, which I'm already familiar with, Heartland Behavioral Health Care. And from those reports, from the testimony that has been presented here today, I think certain things are clear. I think that the evidence has been established, and I would find by clear and convincing evidence that Ruth Miller is a person with a mental illness. There may be some differences of opinion as to what that specific mental illness is, but the statute does not require that there be a unanimous decision as to what that specific illness is. It's clear from everyone who has testified here that you do suffer from a mental illness. I'm then to consider the proper placement for you. And in this case, considering the need to consider the least restrictive setting, as well as keeping in mind public safety, that is also an important consideration here. It is my opinion that committing you into the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, specifically to the Heartland Behavioral Health Care Center, is the appropriate placement here. That will do really all that's expected, and that is to provide you that medical and mental health component that is needed, as well as to provide security to the community. It is a secured hospital from which individuals cannot just come and go as they please. It is a facility for which you will be confined there. I am going to make that order then from the court that is the least restrictive, proper placement for you going forward. A couple of things to keep in mind. One, the Heartland Behavioral Health Care Center is a facility that treats different types of individuals, different situations come up. Bottom line is they have a waiting list to go into that facility. I'm uncertain as to how quickly you will be able to be moved into that facility. I am going to order that you're held in the jail until that bed is available, but we will contact them today to make sure that is expedited. Second thing is, Ruth, this will not be the last time that you're here. There are review hearings that I know was suggested by others because it makes sense to have review hearings. They're designated by statute in Ohio, and there will be a review hearing in approximately 6 months, and after that every 2 years. Going forward, as to what will happen at those review hearings, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know until we have any type of feedback from those at the hospital. Fred, from the state of Ohio's standpoint, anything further?
Judge, we had talked to the victim representative of the family and the children, and they just simply wanted Ms. Miller to know that her children are doing well.
Okay.
Thank
you. Ian, anything further?
No, thank you.
All right. Then, Ms. Miller, I'm going to have you remanded back to the jail, but I certainly recognize the state of the where we find ourselves right now in this case, and I assure you that I will be contacting them to see that they will expedite your placement there as soon as possible. If nothing further, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Judge. Could you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
My name is Daniel D. Horinko, spelled H-R-I-N-K-O.
And Dr. Horinko, where do you work and what do you do?
For the purposes of this evaluation, I am a forensic psychologist in independent practice, contracted with the Forensic Diagnostic Center for District 9 in Cambridge, Ohio, conducting evaluations for numerous counties in eastern and southeastern Ohio through the Department of Mental Health.
Now, what specific educational background do you have that allows you to hold that position?
I have a doctorate in clinical, and I have a doctor of professional psychology focusing on general clinical with the subspecialty of forensic work, awarded in 1995. I've been licensed as a psychologist in Ohio since 1995, and I have been conducting forensic evaluations for 31 years, with the last 20 years being exclusively a forensic practice throughout the state of Ohio. I maintain ongoing continuing education units of at least 9 hours every year to remain affiliated with a certified forensic center in the state of Ohio.
This time I'd ask that Dr. Franco be qualified as an expert in forensic psychology.
No objection.
Okay, so noted.
Dr. Franco, you know we're here on the case of Ruth Miller,
That's correct.
and you've had 2 occasions to interview her.
That is correct. I met with her in late 2025 regarding, in response to orders from this court regarding an opinion pertaining to competence to stand trial, and if my initial impression was that she was likely to be competent, to then evaluate her regarding her mental status at the time of the offense. I produced 2 reports separately to the court addressing those 2 issues.
And you know that based on your reports and the reports of others, that Ms. Miller was found not guilty by reason of insanity last Tuesday by this court.
I was made aware of that when I was contacted by the Forensic Center indicating that the court had made this finding and assigned me to conduct this follow-up evaluation regarding the requirements set forth in 2945.40.
And your interview for that follow-up evaluation was on March 10th?
That's correct. I conducted that interview by way of video conferencing, and it was relatively short because I had previous history with Ms. Miller of getting history background, which was all conducted in person in late 2025.
Now, having conducted several, I'm sure, forensic evaluations, including commitment evaluations, what are the factors that you were looking for statutorily to determine what your opinion would be about Ruth Miller's placement?
Well, for purposes of this evaluation, I'm focusing on the first question is there a mental illness that has a substantial probability of impacting her ability to function in society? And if my opinion is that there is a mental illness, the next is to determine what the least restrictive setting would be to provide appropriate treatment for that mental illness, while also taking into consideration the safety of the community, which is somewhat different than the civil commitment statutes that prioritize individual functioning over the safety of the community.
And to make this determination, you based this upon your own 2 evaluations, and did you look at any other materials?
I was provided with copies of 2 evaluations conducted by other experts regarding her mental status at the time of the offense that were submitted to the court as part of the findings of not guilty by reason of insanity. Having access to that, it also provided me with reports from other records that I may not have been aware of, as well as the opinions of other knowledgeable experts regarding her current functioning, her functioning at the time, and whether or not she had a mental illness.
And those 2 reports that you reviewed would be the report of Dr. Susan Hatters-Freeman. And was that a report from February 17th of 2026?
That was one of the reports that I reviewed.
And the other expert report you reviewed would be a report by Dr. Christopher Merritt, issued January 28, 2026.
That is the other report I reviewed.
Based upon your review of those reports, the other materials that you mentioned that I believe are listed in your report from March 10th, and your evaluations, your individual impressions, did you determine whether Ruth Miller suffered from a mental illness?
There are clear indications that in recent months she has been experiencing debilitating symptoms often associated with mental illnesses. I typically do not go into the specifics of what a formal diagnosis may be, since a person's functioning is more the result of the impact of symptoms. In her case, she was specifically exhibiting delusional beliefs and following directions. There are also reports that suggest there were episodes of hallucinatory experiences, and that these debilitating symptoms of severe mental illness, clearly rooted in what could be considered a diagnosable mental illness for treatment purposes, severely impacted her ability to understand the nature of her actions. So the overwhelming evidence from the records as well as my observations is she does have a mental illness.
After making that determination, what factors did you consider in determining what would be a place for placement, the place of placement that is the least restrictive alternative available, consistent with public safety?
What I look for is the likelihood that this person is going to be able to be an active participant in managing their own mental illness. First and foremost is, are there indicators that medications, when appropriately prescribed, are helpful? I also look for indications of whether or not she is aware of the nature and extent of her mental illness. If she is aware and has insight regarding the nature of her actions when her mental illness is uncontrolled, the insight necessary to understand that she needs to be an active participant in managing her mental illness, and then looking at the supports that she needs from her surrounding environment to be able to maintain stability in that setting.
When you interviewed Ms. Miller on March 10th, was she medicated, and how was she doing?
She reported being medicated, and she appeared to be functioning well, and the medical records from the jail corroborated the fact that she appears to be functioning well within the jail environment with no behavior problems and no overt symptoms of mental illness that would be disruptive to her functioning in that environment.
With respect to insight into her mental illness, what did you discover?
I had concerns because her insight was very limited. Although she provided some basic factual evidence of understanding that she has a mental illness, she was unable to show an indication of being aware of what symptoms were associated with her mental illness, the impact these symptoms might have on her thinking and functioning. She was aware of the fact that she was taking medications, but had difficulty differentiating what the medications were for, and most importantly, she had difficulty providing a clear, logical, and rational explanation as to what the risks might be should she stop taking medications. So I would say her insight is very limited, and that she is responding to the external structure of the environment rather than being driven by an internal awareness or understanding about her mental illness that would allow her to be an active participant in corroborating with her treatment regime other than merely following directions.
When you talk about being an active participant in a treatment regime, would that include family support and a structure around her?
An active participant in their treatment regime is able to understand, in an abstract sense, the reason she's taking medications, the consequences of not taking medications, to be able to articulate the benefits of supportive environments and the services available, and see how all of that is leading towards the development of awareness, insight, and an independent ability to take responsibility for managing their mental illness with the supports. The environment provides the external structure, and at this time, her environment is very limited. it's safe, it's controlled, but there are no group therapies or individual therapies to help her develop these missing insights.
Thank you. Based on your evaluation of Ms. Miller, your review of the records, did you come to an opinion based on your training, education, and experience regarding the appropriate placement?
I did.
And what was that?
I am quite familiar with the state hospital system in Ohio, including Heartland Behavioral Health Care, and it's my understanding that they have extensive experience in providing evidence-based services to individuals, much as she is currently experiencing. They have individual therapy, they have group therapies, and they spend a lot of time helping individuals develop the necessary information, understanding, and insight into the nature of their mental illness, how it manifests itself, the importance of medications. They also work cooperatively with service providers in the community to help prepare for an eventual re-entry into the community, such as working with family members and community programs to prepare for that eventual supportive return.
Given the nature of the offense, did you have an opinion whether that should be a locked facility?
It should, because I would be concerned that with her limited insight, time away from a secure setting might put her in a position to make regrettable decisions about medications based upon her limited insight, which would then set the stage for a return of symptoms and the unpredictable, if not dangerous, behaviors associated with uncontrolled symptoms of mental illness.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Judge.
Attorney Friedman.
Thank you, Judge Nurse. Judge Nurse, I do have a question. I'm wondering if it'd be okay to speak from the table. And the reason I ask is, if I'm at the podium, I'm going to be right in front of the prosecutor, and he will not be able to see Dr. Rinko.
You're more than welcome to question him from right there.
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Rinko, good morning. My name is Ian Friedman, and I represent Ms. Ruth Miller. If at any time I ask you any questions that are not clear, just please don't answer. Ask me to repeat, okay?
I will do that.
All right, thank you. So, your determination when considering the best interest of Ruth and the community at large is to have Ruth Miller placed at Heartland Behavioral Health Care in Massillon, correct?
That is the facility that I believe is responsible for servicing individuals in her county who have this particular legal status.
Very good. And I'm going to just kind of go through a number of questions quickly that may just be an affirmation of what you just said, okay? All right. So, placing Ms. Miller at Heartland, I'll call it, you believe would benefit, she would benefit from further assessment there?
Yes, that is true.
Okay. And you believe that she would benefit at Heartland by making further adjustments in her treatment and also to her medications?
That is correct.
All right. And you would agree, just in general concept, that compliance with medication, compliance with the treatment regimen, and growth and understanding from that is aimed at eventually at reintegration into the community. Fair?
I believe that would be in her best interest, is to provide that path towards that eventual possibility.
Now, would you agree with me that prior to the tragic incident in this case, Ruth did try to get treatment on her own, trying to figure it out kind of on her own without great assistance?
It's my understanding that there was a meeting of friends and family where concerns were expressed and that she had agreed to seek services. And I also believe that there was some medications in the form of antidepressants from a family physician, not a psychiatric or mental health provider.
Okay. Did you look or study kind of that area of what medication she received, the efficacy of it, and how it may have impacted the incident in this case?
I'm a psychologist, not a physician or a pharmacologist, so I'm not really qualified in an expert sense to be able to evaluate the effects of medications, other than the fact that I reported what she was prescribed and I reported what she was taking and what she did. Whether or not there is a connection between that requires expertise beyond my training and license.
Very good, thank you. And I think that you had stated during the direct examination, and you would continue to agree with me, that Ms. Miller has been fully compliant with all direction in all of the facilities that she's been in, whether it's been Marymount Hospital, the initial hospital here, or the Tuscarawas County Jail.
The records indicate that she has been fully compliant and never exhibited any oppositional or problematic behaviors.
Right. Now, when Ms. Miller was originally brought into the hospital on the date of this incident, would you agree that she was in a psychotic state based upon the records you've reviewed?
There were clear indications that she was exhibiting symptoms consistent with psychosis, such as delusional beliefs primarily, as well as possible hallucinatory experiences.
Right. And you've met with her and you've reviewed certain records in this case. Would it be fair, and I understand that your expertise is not with medications, but you've dealt with medicated people before, correct? You have a familiarity with it.
I do.
All right. And you would agree that her condition as of this date, where you and I are speaking now, her mental state has improved from where it was on the date that she made original entry into the system?
Well, I'm not aware about her functioning today, but when I saw her on the 10th, it was significantly improved from what was described in hospital records, and I would attribute that to a large extent to the fact that appropriate professionals have provided medications.
Very good, thank you. Now, you had talked about lack of awareness that Ruth may have. Do you know whether or not services have been provided, or more specifically, has anyone in the jail engaged in any discussion with Ruth Miller as to the medication she's on, what they are, their effects, and so forth, to give her that better insight that you were addressing during direct examination?
I saw no evidence in the records of any specific counseling focusing on that beyond what would be expected from the medical professional administering and providing the medications. There's no evidence of groups or other specified or targeted interactions to help with this.
And in your experience, you would expect that she would get that sort of attention at Heartland, fair?
I believe that is an essential part of their core programming.
Question for you, Doctor. As it relates to cases involving not guilty by reason of insanity, if you could estimate for me, how many cases have you dealt with NGRI findings in murder cases, or serious felonies for that matter?
Probably somewhere between 100 and 150 in my career.
Okay. And would you consider, prior to the incident in this case, so this is the incident that brings us to the court, would you have considered Ruth to be untreated at that time?
There were no indications that she was receiving significant services, because I believe she had taken the antidepressants for a period of time but had stopped taking them several months prior to the instant offense. So I would consider untreated at the time of the instant offense.
And we talked about no incidents with Ruth Miller, but to date, would you agree that all indications point to Ruth being receptive to her medical and mental health care while in the Tuscarawas County Jail, up until the point that you met with her?
I saw no evidence of her being resistive or questioning that.
Now, you did state during your direct examination that you did not make an official diagnosis, that's correct?
That is correct.
Would you agree that there was kind of a variety in diagnoses that were made between the mental health professionals ranging from bipolar to schizophrenia?
Those are diagnoses of which I was aware, and I recorded several of them in my report, because this cluster of symptoms falls under several diagnoses that are similar in many ways, yet different in others.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, your conclusion on page 8 of your report, so the final page, includes reference to a lengthy process, quote, lengthy process. My question to you is, until someone is in treatment and we are able to determine how they've taken to it, how they've received it, how well they have responded to it, one cannot really know how long the person should be in that level of treatment. Fair?
That is true, and that is why there is a process in place for the treatment staff, such as exists at Heartland, to continually update, reassess, and to provide feedback to the courts on a person's progress, so that when they and their experts make a determination that maximum benefits may have been reached, then the court can then reconsider the question regarding placement.
Very good. And so I guess just your choice of words as to lengthy was just more so, obviously we're not saying a day or two, we're talking about the time necessary to ensure that Ruth is safe to herself and others. Fair? And whatever that time may be.
Yeah, the intention of using that word was to indicate that this is not something that will be done in several days, several weeks, or not even likely in several months. My past experiences with doing evaluations with people transitioning out of hospitals indicate that the necessary steps will likely take, a minimum of a year, if not many, many more, depending upon her situation, her progress, and all the variables that the hospital can speak to.